All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Oh gosh. Okay, everybody. It is time to put our cards on the table. It's very uncomfortable, and if I'm catastrophically wrong, I expect many of you to shove it in my face for many years to come. But so be it. We owe it to you exactly to know where we're coming from on Election Day, and in general, this is kind of fun. Before we get to our maps, let me tell you how I had the election last time around. I dug far and wide in my email to get you this relic. This is my 2016 election map. As you can see, I was obviously wrong, but I had a lot closer than most people. I thought that Trump would win Florida, Ohio, Indiana, North Carolina, and more. And around 11 p.m. on Election Day, I realized that he really would be president, and it's a moment I will never really forget. So let's get to it then. This is what I generally expect to see tonight. I fully expect to be wrong on some states, but let me explain why I picked what I did, and I'll lay out where I'm most likely to be right or wrong. Let's start with Florida. I am much more bullish on Trump's chances there than many other mainstream pollsters. The simple answer is that Biden currently has only a 1-point lead in the state, that over and over again we've seen increased support for Trump amongst Latino voters, especially in Florida, and that while he is hemorrhaging among seniors, I think he's made up enough gains and turnout to win the state. Recall that pollsters have distinctly missed Florida in the last two elections, when they had Hillary up in 2016 and had Andrew Gillum winning in 2018. In both cases, Republicans defied the odds largely on the back of increased Latino turnout. So if I'm wrong in Florida, I suspect it will be because of depressed white working class turnout in the Florida Panhandle and more of a senior vote against Trump than I expected. My next controversial pick is Georgia. Georgia went for Trump by 50% of the vote to Hillary's 45%. So what changed? The simple fact is that Georgia is the type of state where a rapid swing in college-educated white voters that we have seen across this country makes a huge difference. Trump's greatest losses nationally, and as borne out in 2016, are amongst this group, who early numbers indicate are turning out in record numbers for this election. The college-educated swing could be just enough to put Biden over the edge. And it's the same dynamic that I think we're going to see in Arizona, which I'm also giving to Biden for the same reason. College-educated whites killed Martha McSally last time in her race with Kyrsten Sinema. And I expect the same dynamic to play out with Mark Kelly and with Joe Biden this time around. In both cases with these states, if I am wrong, the reason is going to be because there was a surge in turnout of non-college educated whites in both states, which were able to counteract these proven and mobilized forces. The other factor in both states could be a decrease in the turnout of black and Latino voters, which is the same thing that depressed Hillary's chances in 2016. So that's Georgia and that's Arizona. And that leaves us with the industrial Midwest, which so much has been written about since 2016. I give the formerly known blue wall to Biden because of individual factors in each state. Wisconsin right now is getting hammered by COVID, and Trump barely won it last time. Michigan, essentially the same way, and he has a Democratic governor which, despite Trump's criticism, has remained largely popular. Pennsylvania, for the same reason that I gave Georgia and Arizona to Biden, a massive population of college-educated whites in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh suburbs. If I'm wrong in any three of these states, it will be for the same reason that they went for Trump in 2016. A large turnout of white working class voters on Election Day that blows away the increased turnout numbers for these Democratic voters in each state. If I am wrong anywhere, I actually expect to be wrongest here. Republicans have always been undercounted in the industrial Midwest, and I simply believe that despite Trump's record enthusiasm across the country, that the backlash he has engendered with these college-educated white populations is something he simply could not afford to lose without making up major grounds with white working class voters of other races. With working class voters of other races. So far, we just have not seen any of that happen. Overall, my map and analysis was heavily informed by Henry Olsen and by Dave Wasserman of the Cook Political Institute, who admittedly were also both wrong last time around, but they were both much less wrong than the overall polling establishment. Olsen in particular made this excellent point that presidential re-elections are always referendums on the incumbent, and that the coronavirus pandemic and its link to Trump's approval is likely what will doom him today, in my view. He is the first president in modern history to never get above a 50% approval rating and would need about 47% of the vote to win this time around with an electoral college advantage, and his problem is lagging with independents, who broke last time around at a 46% to 42%. This time, polls show that they are breaking 52 to Biden, 41 to Trump. For a very long time, I've believed that Trump probably lost the presidency back in February when he compared coronavirus to the flu, and then pivoted to not taking it that seriously in April. I think he sealed his fate by not taking more stimulus for Americans more seriously, and before that, he left himself very precarious by making his only accomplishments in Congress the passage of a large corporate tax cut. I maintain this is one of the most winnable elections of my lifetime, and it's a shame that it had to end up this way. It's that approval rating part, Crystal, I thought was really interesting, which is that he had 47% only at one time, the highest of his whole presidency. It was in March, when he appeared to be taking the coronavirus seriously. And immediately, as those briefings went off the edge and as things began to plummet, he was in the 41 range, now he's equalized around 44, remarkably consistent. And that's just simply not enough percent of the electorate to win an electoral college victory. You need about 47. Last time around, I think it was 46 and 48 for Hillary. So he had 46%, which is what you can do. But this time, if you're not hitting that, then you're just going to lose.
Well, and this time, because there seems to be less of a significant third-party vote, he would need a little bit more than he got last time around. And it's just hard to see what voters he's really added to his coalition. I mean, I see you giving him Florida, which I think Florida is going to be extraordinarily close. And this was one that I agonized over. I ultimately put it in the Biden column for the reason that you're laying out there, which is seniors during coronavirus have moved decisively against Donald Trump. This is a population that was very strong with back in 2016. Florida, the second oldest state in the nation. These are people who always turn out to vote, so that's why I ultimately gave him an edge there. But really, the only group where he seems to have added any to his coalition is among Latinos.
Yes.
So if you were going to have a state where he actually performs as well as or even a little better than he did last time around, you could see it in Florida. Overall, though, I think your analysis is really correct. You know, there was a moment back February, March, April when he could have set this whole thing on a radically different trajectory, not only in terms of his handling of the virus, which, look, I don't think Americans had unreasonable expectations for what he could do. No one expected him to be able to wave a magic wand and make it go away, but they wanted to feel like he was taking it seriously. They wanted it to feel like he was taking their lives seriously, especially older voters who a lot of the GOP is just kind of dismissed as like, oh, well, it's only killing old people, so who really cares? Look, old people count too. Like, their lives matter as well, and they vote a lot. Yeah, that's part of the thing here too. But also on the economic front, the only time when he really responded was when the stock market crashed. And after the stock market went back to hunky-dory, there wasn't a lot of urgency around getting something done. I saw Jake Sherman tweet last night at like 10 p.m., well, guess there's not going to be a stimulus before Election Day. Officially. And that was the last possible opportunity for him to really show the kind of assertive leadership and force that a lot of people expected him to have for his entire presidency.
Yeah, I think that's right. And look, I think this was a winnable election. Before COVID, I think Trump would have beat Biden. I'm nearly certain that he would have won the election. And I think that in March and April
you're right about that.
Is really when he had it all together. And he had this moment where he could have been a more transformative leader. I think he would win this election by 10 points, but by basically listening to the libertarians, both in terms of COVID and lockdowns and in terms of economic policy, he made himself dramatically unpopular. Remember, and I said one of my favorite radars here, the single most unpopular day of Trump's presidency was the day they passed those tax cuts. It's more popular to let people die than it is in order to pass billionaires' tax cuts. And that's something that most people just don't really want to understand, but I think tells a very, very big story about this election. That's largely the decisions that I made. And I think I wanted to make sure I laid out, like, if I'm wrong, this is why. You know, like, these populations shifted in ways that I didn't expect. And so I fully expect that Trump is probably going to lose tonight. However, 10% is still 10%. We have to take that very seriously.
Yeah.
And if he does win, it will really change a lot of the way I think about politics.
Well,
probably forever.
I think if he wins, to me, it's an even more damning statement on, Joe Biden and neoliberalism and the utter rot and lack and unacceptability of the Democratic Party at this point. Again, I don't think that is what's going to happen. Not that decision shouldn't be rendered. Not that Joe Biden has really done what it takes to deserve to win. But ultimately, this thing has been a referendum on Donald Trump, and he has blown every opportunity to take control of it.
I think that's largely correct. All right, I'm looking forward to your radar and map next, Crystal.